So, disclaimer on this video, I was hoping to have this video out before the Setamont update comes out with the Cartethyia release. Unfortunately, due to IRL life kind of screwing me, this is more going to release with the update instead of before it. But due to the fact this is still the Cartethyia release patch, everything in this video still has 100% application. So yeah, enjoy the video. Well, didn't expect I'd be making this video. Govannen, everybody, your local ranger here, Fluerdelys Direstorm. Back to YouTube for something I didn't expect to be doing, but here we are. We're here to cover gacha drama. I can't believe I'm saying this, but needless to say, something has pissed me off so bad, and and annoyed me, and maybe caused minor depression. But yeah, we're gonna be getting into that in this video, and it all has to do with Cartethyia, a character that I have been massively hyped for, the character that literally got me into Wuthering Waves, the character that also technically, in a roundabout way, made me stop playing Genshin and Star Rail, and yeah, just get into this drama coverage. So without further ado, let's get into this video. Alright everyone, so the thing I want to talk today about is the fact that the Cartethyia fanbase and the character of Cartethyia herself has caused some drama on the internet that has become unpleasant to be around is an understatement, which I mean drama in the space of the gacha game area is nothing new, and technically drama in a lot of the video game genres isn't nothing new either, which isn't a surprise, it's just a disappointment at this point. But this one hits closer to home for me because this character is pretty much been my most hyped for character ever, and this drama has just pretty much started to ruin the character for me, and no one's covering it. I'm apparently going to be like the first I have seen on the internet to cover it on YouTube. I've talked about it some on my Twitch, but I just was like, at this point, no one else is covering it. I'm hitting this in a YouTube video, and I don't know if this will even get out there to anybody, but if it does, good, because I want my message to get out there. So without further ado, let's dive into this. The main issue that's going to be addressed is the fact that we are getting two different characters in one, and this has caused a lot of drama. Now, before I get into this, I want to talk about two things. First off is the fact that I am going to look at this fairly and keep my personal opinion to the very end of the video, so stay tuned for that if you want to hear my opinion on the whole thing. But for the most of it, I'm going to look at this objectively. I'm going to target all sides because everyone involved, no matter what side of this drama you're on, I feel like you have both right and wrong, and I'm going to address all of it, so everyone's getting hit. So if I hit you first, stay tuned because I'm gonna hit the people you disagree with next. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we're going to be looking at a certain image. Now, many of you have seen this meme in various forms across the internet. I saw this meme first when I first got into anime, back in 2019, when a buddy of mine persuaded me to start watching anime, and back then I thought it was kind of cringe, so I didn't. And then he persuaded me and got me into a few shows that were right up my alley because I'm a fantasy sci-fi lover, and I fell in the black hole right before COVID, and then that got me even more into the black hole, and here we are. But anyway, this was one of the first memes that I saw, and when he was trying to explain the whole waifu thing to me, and everyone has their camps that they're in and whatnot with who they like. And back then, when I first got into anime, this was mostly just a joke that everyone just had fun with, and no matter what camp you were in, there'd be some shade thrown around and whatnot, but most of the time people were, people had mutual respect for people who had differing opinions and different camps that they were in, and everyone just kind of liked who they liked, and that was it. So yeah, keep this in mind for the rest of this video, because this will come into play quite a lot, trust me. And since I didn't address it before, yes, I am in webcam form. That's how serious I'm getting for this. For those of you who have been watching me on Twitch for a while in my small streamer side of Twitch, I've been in PNG VTuber form for quite a while. Mostly because various reasons, not only because it's easier and more comfortable, but also because the studio I'm in right now has an air conditioning circulation problem with the rest of my house, and the lights in here heat this room like a mega oven. So if I use this for too long, especially on live streaming, I usually end up getting myself cooked. So yeah, but we're doing it for the video because that's how serious I'm taking this. Anyway, main issue we're going to be addressing here is the fact that the fan base of the characters Cartethyia and Fluerdelys has kind of become this three-way civil war between the Cartethyia fans, the Fluerdelys fans, and the fans of what I'm calling the both side. And it's gone beyond just a typical, you know, fun throw shade at the other side kind of silly debate thing. It has gone from that into a full-on bullying, insulting, degrading war on the internet that has just started to kill my love for not only the character but the game. And we're going to be addressing all three of those sides. I'm going to be throwing critiques at each side because I think all of them, if you look at them critically as a logical human, they all have arguments that make no sense. And then we're going to address that, talk about what each side is talking about that is good points, and what each side is talking about that is just illogical bullying and makes no sense. And yeah. And after I have addressed all of those, at the end of the video, I will give my opinion on this whole drama, the character, and the game, and we'll go from there. Now, I will be honest here, folks. I mostly am going to be looking at stuff on Reddit, because I was hoping to also get stuff from X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it now, but thanks to X having the most outrageously stupid search function in human existence, and past me not having the brain capacity to bookmark posts that would later apply to the discussion I'm doing in this video, I can't find anything. So yeah, we're just gonna cover Reddit today, which hopefully will get the point across of what I'm trying to make with what's going on with the community. And I'm sure all of you can find examples of the three camps I'm going to talk about on anywhere on the internet, including X and Twitter, because there's a lot of it on there. I just couldn't find any for this video. So moving on, let's get into this topic. Also, I will let everyone know I will try to cover this as well as I can, but obviously there might be some stuff I could have worded better and whatnot, because we all have moments like that. But please leave any critiques for the end of the video. Make sure you watch the whole thing, and then leave comments below, because I am definitely open-minded and I would like to have a discussion with all of you at the end of the day about this, because yeah, this is definitely a problem. But anyway, let's get into it. All right, we're gonna start off with the side of the fan base that I guess was technically the first side to be in the fan base. Many of these people are the OGs that came in back when the character was right at the end of the 2.0 story in Wuthering Waves, and they came in, they saw that scene of her dancing on the water, and they're like, that is amazing character. They got the Zelda vibes from her. They got all the other elven characters you can think of. Frieren, High Elf Archer from Goblin Slayer, Ryu Leon from Danmachi, Amelia from ReZero. They were getting those vibes from her. Those are that's the fan base that when they saw her, they were like, hell yeah, that is my character. And many of them came rushing in for that character. And as the story progressed to 2.2, Fluerdelys got revealed. Many of them on the internet started freaking out and being like, wait a minute, is she gonna, please tell me the Fluerdelys form's gonna stay as a boss, right? She's not gonna be playable. And they started freaking out, especially when a bunch of Fluerdelys fans started coming in saying, if she isn't playable, we riot. Fast forward to today, and these Cartethyia fans are very distraught because the character that they were fans of back before Fluerdelys even was announced, even though, let's be honest, Kuro Games probably had this planned from the start, from the drawing board. They probably had planned to have both these characters in one. they are mad because they wanted Cartethyia, and now they get Fluerdelys. And many of them don't want Fluerdelys, they want Cartethyia. However, this has gone too far. So without further ado, let's look at some comments from Cartethyia fans and address some of these. Okay, this comment perfectly explains Cartethyia fans right here. And this is addressing just people, a Reddit post of people just questioning why people don't like both. So let's read this. They still have vastly different design. Even narratively, we spend all the time with Cartethyia, not this random odd giant that players practically had zero attachment toward. People get attached to Carti way more. Moreover, Miyu saw her way back from Leak in 2.0. All the waiting and what we got, only playing for character we like for 20% of the time. The rest is taken by a weird giant with ugly oversized tits if you want to do damage. Okay, here's what they're saying. They came for Cartethyia, they saw Cartethyia, and this is, again, I think more of a problem with Kuro than anything else, is that the way Kuro presented Cartethyia for pretty much all the way up to the end of the story on 2.2, Cartethyia was the character that they were marketing. They were marketing her hard with the storytelling, with everything that they were doing. It was, Cartethyia was the one that was pulling in the attention at the time, and a lot of people joined the game. A lot of people start saving for, you know, currency in the game. A lot of people started building hype for Cartethyia. Cartethyia was the character that got this fan base started, and is clearly what Kuro was doing, is marketing Cartethyia. And at the end, they just have Fluerdelys. And yeah, there's a lot of good story around Cartethyia and Fluerdelys and the relationship, and obviously the end of 2.2 had some cool Fluerdelys scenes. But at the end of the day, I agree with this person. They haven't really given us a good attachment to Fluerdelys outside of her looks. Which, again, of course, her looks are going to appeal to a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think Fluerdelys's design is amazing. I do. However, Kuro did slip up on this fact. They didn't give us an equal amount of connection to both characters. I think even if they still had only Cartethyia present in the end of 2.2, that would have been fine. But if the whole 2.2 story had some type of, whether it was like flashbacks more often with more details on the Fluerdelys form, or maybe just more story connected to Fluerdelys, I think if they had just spent somehow more time in the story that emotionally connected you to Fluerdelys as well, told more about Fluerdelys's character, what she's thinking, it would have came off to everyone better, even if they disliked one or the other, because at the end of the day, this person is right. There's almost zero attachment outside of the sex appeal to Fluerdelys, which, again, no hate on people that like Fluerdelys, because there's a lot of reasons to like Fluerdelys, let's be honest. But they're right. And for someone that came for Cartethyia, so someone that was ready for Cartethyia, for someone that played all of the 2.2 story and was getting more hyped as they went for Cartethyia, and then at the end it's just like, haha, yeah, so storytelling, Fluerdelys is actually part of Cartethyia, and yeah, you just gotta accept it. And they're just, huh? What? Why? So I get this, and obviously people like this are getting a lot of hate on the internet, and it's sad because I feel for them. I feel for them. I really do. I do. Because people out here hating them. Okay, so here's one other one that kind of is a reply to someone that was pretty much saying a comment like, why do people hate one or the other when they're in the story? This creates this whole unhinged conversation, which in some ways gets pretty funny, but I'll only just read a few comments just to get the point across here. But yeah, so this person says the designs are different, and that's a valid reason to like one or dislike another, which is true. And then this person, clearly disgruntled Cartethyia fan, says, for real, Fluerdelys looks so goddamn bland, and people only like her because of her tits. So, again, and this creates some funny replies like you look bland and all this, and bait used to be believable, and all this other funny replies. But here's the thing, and I get where people like this Cartethyia fan are so upset, because I feel like there was definitely an imbalance when it came to the story presentation of Cartethyia versus Fluerdelys, where we have Cartethyia that steals most of the story time, has most of the emotional connection with Rover and with the player character. And the way the whole 2.2 story was done, and even to a certain extent, the 2.0 story, fully invested in building up Cartethyia, investing you with Cartethyia. And then the ending of 2.2 happens, you fight Fluerdelys, you kill Fluerdelys, you save Cartethyia, the Sentinel revives her, and then the Sentinel gives her a choice when reviving her, whether she pretty much wants to restart her life or whether she wants to stay in her corrupted, like, mix-mashed form of her younger self, her pure younger self, and her corrupted older self. And she chooses, no, I'm gonna keep my past and keep moving on and not restart. Which was a great story moment. However, the way it's been done so far, and they can still fix it with Septimon, which I'm hoping they do. But as of now, and with them marketing Cartethyia at this point, Fluerdelys, in the aspect of emotional connect and story lore connection with the player character, is very imbalanced. And this creates a problem where people who already don't like the design have that other problem with the character, and then they take it out and they say that they start raging because they're like, this character only exists for sex appeal, and all you filthy gooners in the community are the only reason this character is now just stealing the show. And it creates this whole, like, pretty much animosity towards that whole side of the fan base that likes Fluerdelys. And at the end of the day, I blame Kuro for it. And here's the reason. Fluerdelys, at the end of the day, is an awesome character. Not everyone's gonna like her design. A lot of people might just be turned off by it, because again, that's a personal preference thing, and there's no... It's different designs, different personal preferences. And if these were two separate characters, it wouldn't be as big of an issue. However, because they are tied in the same character, there's already a massive disconnect with people that prefer one design and don't like the other, where they are locked together. And with how the story was presented, it just creates this imbalance where now that we see the gameplay, we see the pull animation, we see the marketing, all of a sudden Fluerdelys is stealing the show everywhere. She's the big star of the gameplay, let's be honest. She takes up most of the pull animation, and she is the big star of the pull animation. Most of the marketing, like, there's some awesome Cartethyia marketing, but let's be honest, what's the marketing that is blowing up on the internet? Fluerdelys marketing. The Fluerdelys marketing steals the show again. So then you have these Cartethyia fans that are coming out, and they're just like, I came for this, I get this, and I have no connection to this new form. And all these other people love it. Basically, all I'm seeing for the sex appeal or just big playable boss go burr, and I hate it. And that's where these people are coming from. And yes, these people are pretty much going, oh, it's all you filthy gooners are ruining my game and my character, which again is ridiculous, because at the end of the day, Cartethyia fans, you like the character Cartethyia for the same reason Fluerdelys fans like Fluerdelys. They both have virtually the same outfit, they both have the same sexual appeal marketing, because that's how these games work. Sex sells. It's just different designs and different personalities, and they're clashing. And again, this probably wouldn't be as big of an issue if Kuro had balanced them out more in the story, balanced them more in the marketing, balanced them more in the gameplay, but instead we just have this imbalance everywhere, and it creates the disconnect. And it creates the fallout that we're seeing with Cartethyia fans like this, which is sad. Okay, so this next one we're going to look at sums up both. The post is by someone who's definitely in the Cartethyia fanbase side, and the replies are very much in the both side. So we're kind of going to go into both of those camps a bit here. So let's take a look at this. this person, I'll read the first half, and then the second half I'm kind of just gonna summarize to save you guys the crash out this guy has, because the first half he makes a lot of good points, and it's very, you can see where his side is coming from, and then the second half he just completely crashes out. But yeah, so let me read this. I was lurking for Cartethyia Lakes months ago when a little image of a cute elf showed up randomly in Discord. I had joined WuWa rather recently and had much received a massive reason to keep playing just so I could pull her one day. I slowly played through 2.2 story, enjoying every interaction we had with Cartwheel. Now that we could officially see and hear her reactions and behavior felt human. She's the sentinel that's very easy to relate to. I read the many posts excited about her. It was just Cartethyia back then, when we barely thought about anything else being there, which this guy's just basically saying he was one of the OG Cartethyia fans that was there before Fluerdelys was even in the game. This is the guy that joined for Cartethyia when 2.0 was the newest content in the game, and was pretty much fully on the Cartethyia hype train all the way, playing through 2.2 up to that ending. And yeah, and then obviously after the ending where she keeps her future Fluerdelys form instead of asking the Sentinel to delete it and have her pretty much start her life over. When that happened, that is where many people in the Cartethyia fan base pretty much had a oh no moment. And this is where this guy pretty much was in that camp, because then he says Fluerdelys existing did worry me a bit, but Zani already had an alt form. Surely she was the multi-form leagues mentioned, and the majority in here was societally excited for Cartethyia, nothing else. Surely that's what we'd get, and Fluerdelys would be a future resonator that would pair really well with Cart. There was never an official poll. Cartethyia came out on top in the sub-polls, by the way, and even a question about it on the surveys, yet Fluerdelys completely took over the combat functionality and animations of Cartethyia. The army first met and became attached to relegates. Okay, again, this guy starts going into like leaks for her gameplay and stuff like that, which, I mean, gameplay's subject to change, so I don't care about it too much even when the character comes out, because even then, within the next few patches, the developers can still rework a character soon after release, which is why I usually don't try to, like, number one, I've never been a meta player, but even if I was, I still wouldn't go too hard into the building right off the bat. I would wait a bit before doing so, because they're always subject to change. But anyway, and pretty much after that, this guy just goes into a giant crash out, and honestly, like, he says some pretty nonsensical stuff, kind of going after everybody, but at the end he does kind of bring it together and say it would have been nice to have, more animations that were for both forms, more customizability for being able to play both forms and whatnot. And in the midst of some bad arguments, he has some good points, but overall this is majority where a lot of these Cartethyia fans are coming from. They joined for Cartethyia. They saw the fan base where, when this fan base started, everyone in here was only small elf fans. They were there for their little Zelda, and they weren't there for Fluerdelys. And then Fluerdelys came in and just, with the whole Fluerdelys fan base, and all these people just got stomped under the stampede. And again, his crash out is a little ridiculous, but at the same time, I feel for this guy. I do, because it's what happened, is that Cartethyia got ruffle stomped by Fluerdelys, and it is fully Kuro's fault in the way that they marketed the character, the way they presented the story, as I've pointed out before, and it's sad. And then this creates, which I'm not gonna just read all of these, but all the people in here pretty much just go after this guy, and some of them target some of the stuff he said in his crash out, but most of the comments are mostly like this one right here. Negator Trucello, Chorcy made Fluerdelys before the they go after the lore, and they're like, oh, it's in the lore, it's in the lore. If you played the quest 2x2, you know the common power of yes, Cartethyia gives so again, people using the lore to defend the character. And this is again sad, because here's the thing. Again, as I'm going to say later when I get into the both side, and wait till the end of the video for more discussion on this, but the problem with the both side is that it's feeding into a problem that we're starting to build up now, where the lore is being used to excuse anything that is done by these companies. And I wish I could be a fly to wall for Kuro games or Hoyoverse or any of these games just to find out one of the big questions I have wondered, which is what comes first. It's like that chicken, what came first, the chicken or the egg scenario? This is that, but what came first, the character designs or the story around them? Because I would respect a character like Cartethyia and Fluerdelys being mixed together more if I found out the story came first, but what if it was the reverse? How would that change the opinion? I'm just saying, what if they were at the drawing board and they're like, alright, we're imagining this small elf character that's gonna steal most of the show, but can also transform into this big mommy milker giantess MILF character that does big damage, and just make a good story around it. Can you imagine how just that difference of order would affect the opinion people have on the characters like this that are controversial? I feel like it'd be a big effect, but we'll get into that later. So in the avenue of these three camps that I've mentioned, we're now going to get into the both side. And with the both side, you have the people that are coming out that are fans of both designs. And a good amount of them, not all of them, and I'll give an example of a good one at the end, but most of them are pretty much going after, you know, the people that prefer Fluerdelys and the people that prefer Cartethyia, pretty much saying, what's wrong with you guys? They're the same character. They're the same in the story. Did you not pay attention to the story? The fact that you don't like one or the other means you hate the story, you didn't pay attention to the story, and you don't deserve the character. And that is, there's so many problems with this argument, because not only is it an issue where, again, I feel like it would be so different if we knew what came first, the chicken or the egg. What came first, the design of the character or the story that inspired the design of the character? But it's just, I feel like using the lore as an excuse for anything is bad, and this coming from someone who loves the lore. In any of these games, I love reading books outside of playing games, and when I play games, I love deep diving into the lore. I love savoring every word. I'm a lore junkie through and through. But that being said, excusing stuff in games because of the lore, whether it be something bad like predatory practice, like a global passive or something, or anything worse than that, because I'm sure we'll get that sometime soon, believe me. But just, or even stuff like this, where you just have two different character designs mixed into one unit and say, oh, the lore excuses it. Well, does that necessarily make it a good thing, though? Like, I'm not saying having Fluerdelys and Cartethyia together is bad, per se. I do, and I will go into this a lot more going through this video. It would just have been, they could have done it in a way that made people who don't prefer one or the other can still play the character the way they want with it being mixed. And they could have figured out a way to do it, and they did it. And they instead force everyone to play as both, and it's sad. But anyway, let's look at this one example of a both fan and how they're coming from their opinion to make their argument. So this person says, with so much Cartethyia Fluerdelys hate lately, and then they like quote like a little bit of both of the other sides, because like here they just like, oh, Fluerdelys fans say, oh, I don't like Cartethyia, I just want to use Fluerdelys, she's hotter. Or Cartethyia fans being like, oh, I love Cartethyia but hate Fluerdelys, she's so sexualized. And then this is him saying, Cartethyia is the innocent village girl who became the blessed man, took the oath to protect and serve her people, who face their foes despite her own fears. Fluerdelys is the Cartethyia whose aged nightly body is a testament to the decades she spent fighting human suffering and corruption incarnate. If you can't love one, you shouldn't have the other. Problem with this, it's not a story issue, and this is what these people in the both community are not getting. I guarantee you, if you asked most of the people that are complaining that they can't play enough Cartethyia or they can't play enough Fluerdelys and it makes them upset, most of them would say, guarantee you, that it's not an issue with the story, that they love the story, they love that both characters in the story. And I guarantee even the people that don't prefer the looks of one or the other would still at the end of the day come out and say, hey, I like Cartethyia, but Fluerdelys is really cool. Or, hey, I think Fluerdelys is hot and sexy, but Cartethyia, she's pretty cute, and she has some really good story. I guarantee you a lot of them would say that. In fact, maybe even most, if not almost all of them would say that. But at the end of the day, people don't like one or the other because of how the unit ended up coming out and how the marketing and the storytelling was pushed for this character. Everything was imbalanced, and at the end of the day, you have to accept both, even if you don't prefer one or the other, that you have to accept both and you still win and lose in equal measure. And honestly, I just find that sad. It is just straight up sad. And at the end of the day, again, more of an issue with Kuro games than anything else, but it's not an issue with the story. It's not an issue with them being the same character, because we all know they're the same character. We all paid attention to the story. Well, most of us did. But this is the one thing that a lot of these both fans are not getting, is that just because the story has them both being the same character doesn't mean we have to like them both being the same character. Even if the storytelling is awesome, which it is, it shouldn't excuse that. Because if we keep doing this, where we keep saying, hey, if anything goes as long as there's a good excuse in the story and the story's well written, then hey, it's good. It's in the lore, guys. I don't care. I don't care what it is. It could be, you know, it could be just a silly issue, side issue, or a major predatory practice, but hey, if it's excusable in the lore of the game, we all good. This is where, even if this isn't that bad, this type of an argument leads into that avalanche effect, that domino effect that can go that level down the line. And we've already seen this happening with other gacha games, other games outside of the gacha space, and it's just stuff like this is gonna lead to more. But let's look at some more. So here's one comment from a both fan that overall isn't too toxic, but it still is generally the point that I think most of the fans of both are coming from. And again, I think it has good intentions, but there is that fundamental flaw in it. But let me read this. I personally never understood this. It's been very heavily referenced throughout the story, and even further in the cinematic, that they are both two sides of the same coin, especially after the part where she talks about the name Cartethyia being lost to time, when she decides to embrace the path, accepting the responsibility that comes with fully accepting the powers that she has to access in order to protect others. Cartethyia is as much Fluerdelys as Fluerdelys is Cartethyia. That is true. But the reason that most people hate one or the other isn't due to lore. The lore is being used as an excuse here. And yes, the lore might make the character make sense. The lore might be good, because it is great for Wuthering Waves 2.0 and on, let's be honest. But here's the thing. We keep, as the gacha community, and even in spreading to other game genres as well, using, if the game has good story to make an excuse for something existing, we use that as an excuse to say, why are you critiquing this? Because, well, it's in the lore. This is something that I feel like is giving a message to developers that if they write it into the lore in a way that is really well told and is a really good story, they can get away with anything. And obviously we're seeing examples of this with Star Rail, with the global passives, because the characters are so overpowered in the lore, global passives make sense. And we can't keep doing this. Eventually we are going to get to a point where something insanely predatory, to the point where even people who are okay with other predatory measures are going to be, okay, that's too far, but it's going to be in the lore somehow, and people are going to be fighting them on the internet saying, well, it's in the lore, it makes sense. And I can't think of an example right now. Maybe some of you could give some, you know, some like scenarios in the comments or something of stuff that could happen, because I'm sure people could definitely think of one. I'm probably gonna think of one later after I upload this video, because brain go burr. But yeah, it's just, we can't keep doing this. This is going to backfire down the road, and in some ways it's already backfiring. And again, this is probably planned from the start that they would have Fluerdelys and Cartethyia in the same character, but does that make it okay? It's not necessarily not okay, but it is something that is a problem, especially with how Kuro is presenting it. Because they're two amazing characters mixed into one, but there's no excuse for not allowing people to have more customization in how they play a character like this. When you have a character like this, there will inevitably be fans that like one or the other better. And you should allow more customization in the kit and in other things, like the marketing and everything, that allows both sides equal representation and doesn't prioritize one over the other. And I think the biggest loss that Kuro did with this character was making it so that Fluerdelys is the star of everything. Because she is, let's be honest. When you watch the cutscenes, when you watch the trailers, who steals the show? It's Fluerdelys, let's be straight up honest here. Yes, Cartethyia might have the emotional connection, but Fluerdelys steals the show every time. Who steals the pull animation? Let's be honest, Fluerdelys again. Cartethyia is at the start and the rest is just Fluerdelys with a little Cartethyia at the end. Who steals the gameplay? Let's be honest, Fluerdelys again. She has the ultimate animation. She is the star of that ult. She is the star of the whole kit. She has all of the resonance chains. But at the same time, Fluerdelys fans can't stay as Fluerdelys the whole time. They have to build up to the ult as Cartethyia and get all the stacks of arrow erosion and all of that. Which pretty much means that at the end of the day, yes, the Cartethyia fans are losing more, but even so, the Fluerdelys fans are still losing too, because they can't just stay as giantess big booba MILF the whole time. They have to at least play a little bit of Cartethyia. My opinion on what they should have done, and I will probably address this again at the end when I get to my personal opinion more, is that they should have made it so that you can switch either form at any time, whether it be something like the way you can switch the rover elements, or something more like Phoebe's mode switching, but instead it would switch the forms and technically the modes. But they should have allowed it that you can play either character on demand at any time 100% of the time. Fluerdelys fans could be Fluerdelys 100% of the time, which they would love. Cartethyia fans could play Cartethyia 100% of the time, which they would love. Everyone would be happy at the end. That, and there should have been more of a balance, going back a little farther before the gameplay, there should have been more balance between Cartethyia and Fluerdelys. I think that with the trailers and the cutscenes at least, there's enough emotional connection that you could argue Cartethyia has a balance with Fluerdelys. But I think they should have balanced the emotional and the action for both, because if you go emotional, you know, connection to the character, Cartethyia wins every time. But if you go combat, action, you know, scenes, Fluerdelys wins every time. I think they should have tried to balance that out a little bit more. I mean, the closest you can get is that newest story cutscene trailer they released before the live stream for the next update, because at least in there you got to see Cartethyia fighting a bit, and it was kind of cool to see that. Let's be honest, we really haven't seen that much, and I'm hoping in the next version we at least get some more of that. But you still don't really have that emotional connection to Fluerdelys, and at the end of the day, Cartethyia, yeah, we're seeing her fight more now, but it's still nothing compared to anything Fluerdelys is doing. I think they should have tried to balance that out more. That and the pull animation, I think they went full Fluerdelys in that pull animation, which I feel for those Cartethyia fans, man. It's sad. I think they should have balanced that out more. They definitely should have made that, like, I think they could have kept the first two parts of that the same, where they have both of them coming out of the stained glass, but at the end they should have had them do what they should have had them honestly just do the pose they did in their drip marketing, where it's like both of them evenly on the screen. That would have been so much better, but instead we got just Fluerdelys taking up the whole screen, and yeah, it's just, I don't know what the hell they were thinking there, but we have to live with it now. But anyway, overall, I got an old tangent here, but this is what I just explained and how I think Kuro could have done better is the reason that a lot of Fluerdelys and Cartethyia fans are upset. And it's not that they hate Fluerdelys or they hate Cartethyia. I think they're taking out their emotions and their anger and whatnot on either of them. But at the end of the day, I think it is upsetness that you have to be a fan of both forms and you have to play as both forms. There's no customization. You have to do both. And so the people that enjoy both are coming out and saying, well, the story says they're the same character. Yes, it does, but does that make it okay in the end that the character is presented in this way? No, it doesn't. But yeah, let's look at some more comments here. Okay, so this comment right here is kind of an example of someone talking from the both side, not understanding why people like one or the other more. And then obviously the comments kind of delve into a little bit of all three sides at once, but we'll get into that. But I think this kind of leads into a good point, again, for this character and how I feel like it could have been released better. But anyway, this person says, in reply to someone saying they don't get, again, why people like one or the other more, damn bro, why they gotta dump on my girls like that? Kuro even gave us the option to choose either Cardi or Fluerdelys to play in the world, and definitely I love them both. Again, you can, but there are penalties for playing one or the other, which I think is a problem. But anyway, let's go to these bottom two because they are more related than this one. I'll get to this one last. But anyway, so down here we have, wait, you mean we don't need to alt use Fluerdelys in the open world, just change between them as we like for indefinite time? Nope, you still have to alt, which this guy says, but once you're in the alt, you can stay on her as long as you want until you press the alt button again, which is nice. It does limit the Fluerdelys fans behind actually having to build her alt to switch, and then obviously having to build it again to switch back once you leave, which is a problem. And I think, again, that could have been done better, which again, this comment kind of says, from a creative standpoint, it would have been awesome to integrate ways to select which model you want to play, cycle between them whenever you want instead of does me. Yeah, so pretty much it would have been nice if for either form it wasn't as limited as it is. Because I think making it the way, again, it's more of a problem with the way Kuro made the character. What they should have done is they should have made it something like maybe like Phoebe's mode switching, where you can switch between her Spectral Frazzle mode or her normal standard Spectral DPS mode. But something like that for Fluerdelys, I don't know how they could have done it, whether it's hold a button down or something. But it would have been so cool if you could just, on the go, whenever you want, switch from Cartethyia to Fluerdelys, and each of them has their own skill animations, their own alt animations, and you know, maybe transforming back and forth also has their own cool animations for the two different transforms. That would have been so cool, and it would have allowed not only people who like both to have even more variety of what they can do with their unit, but it would have allowed people that prefer one form or the other to have more versatility in just whether it be the combat or it be the exploration. It would have allowed people to enjoy the character that they enjoy even more. Whereas the way we get her unit currently in the game limits one or the other, and it's honestly sad. Because again, Cartethyia fans might be able to enjoy most of the exploration mechanics and the flying, but they can't run on water, which is sad, especially considering Cartethyia at the end of 2.0 was walking on water. It wasn't Fluerdelys, even though I still think Fluerdelys deserves to walk in the water, don't get me wrong, because they are the same character, but I still think it's sad Cartethyia can't. But again, Cartethyia, the biggest loss Cartethyia has is she loses out combat-wise, because Fluerdelys steals the freaking show combat-wise in every freaking capacity, where people who prefer Cartethyia over Fluerdelys are getting absolutely and utterly screwed, because yeah, no, you want to do damage as Cartethyia. From what everyone is saying right now, based on the early looks at her kit, and obviously subject to change, but I don't think it's going to change too much, is that her kit is mid at best, and it's because the whole point of her character is you do a little bit of building on Cartethyia and you swap to Fluerdelys and do the big numbers. And so the Cartethyia fans losing out on pretty much just being able to do damage the way they want to. Whereas Fluerdelys fans in reverse, they can do the big numbers, the big damage, but they still have to play in Cartethyia to kind of build up to that a little bit, build up the ult. And when you're in the ult, you can stay in it indefinitely, but from what I hear, you can't use items. I think the running on water is limited. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think I remember reading or hearing somewhere that the Fluerdelys walking on water is a limited thing. But yeah, there's a lot of limitations for the Fluerdelys form as well, and it's just sad. They could have done this so much better. Instead of having just ult be Fluerdelys transform, and you know everything else is just whatever. It's sad. It's sad. And don't even get me started on the imbalance with everything else, which I have talked about and will talk about in this video a lot. It's just the way this character was done could have been so much better, and yeah, Kuro kind of fumbled, and it has kind of overflowed into this whole community turning into a dumpster fire. But we're gonna continue. All right, I will give credit where credit is due to the both fans, that not all of you are using the lore as an excuse, and those of you who aren't are the based ones. So let's look at one example of the based crowd here. So in this one here, we have this person who says, I also don't understand how people can hate any of her forms. Cartethyia is cute, Fluerdelys is attractive. All I see her is a win-win. I'm leaving my wallet empty in 5 days. And then obviously the person below I'm saying best 2-in-1 deal I've ever seen. These are the people I respect, because the people who are like, oh, how can you not like one or the other when they're in the lore? They're the same character, so you clearly did pay attention to story. No, that's not the issue. The issue is a design and a personal preference issue. However, people like this who are saying, hey, I like both. I like both. I don't get why people like one or the other, but for my personal opinion, I like both, and I'm just gonna pull and enjoy what I like. And to you guys, I say more power to you. You deserve it, because you're not attacking or criticizing people because, oh, I don't get why you don't like one or the other when they're the same in the story, but you're going outside of the confines of the story and the lore and saying, hey, even outside of the lore and story, I like both. You guys might not like both, but hey, I like both, so I'm pulling for what I like. And hey, I respect that, because at the end of the day, that's what we all want. We want to, in games like this, we want to try to work towards and pull, and in some cases even spend money on a character we all want to go for. So this is the type of the both side I respect. I respect this person. I don't know how much they feel about the people that like one or the other, outside of saying they don't understand them, but from everything I get from vibes from this comment, as short as it is, that they don't really have any animosity toward those sides of the community. They're more just confused. But hey, again, I respect it. This I respect. All right, we will now get into our final camp, and probably the one that is the most it's both the most entertaining and the most unhinged in the worst aspects of this side, which is the fan base of the resident big giantess, big booba'd MILF Fluerdelys, which, needless to say, the Fluerdelys fans are the more passionate of the three. In some ways good, and in some ways not so good. But yeah, without further ado, let's look at some of these comments that I have found for the Fluerdelys fans, because ooh, they get spicy. Okay, here's a fun one right here. This section of people talking right here. Let's address this one. So this guy says they're one and the same, but to be honest, I have no desire to play some lolicon. She's not a lolicon. We'll get into that. Fixation on lolis in general in the anime community is weird to me. I saw you can play as her essentially adult form and got sold after I saw that alt. Overall, I like Cartethyia as a character as a whole, but I definitely got swung over after seeing I could play as Fluerdelys. Someone replies, literally same bill as Lumi, Carla, and Phoebe. They're as far to being lolis as Encore is to being a teenager. True. Surprised this isn't downvoted to oblivion, but yeah, the loli fixation in the gacha community is off-putting. That being said, I wouldn't consider Cartethyia a loli, though. She doesn't look that young. True. Yeah, doesn't look that young, but that fan servicey outfit is clearly young code character pass. Okay, again, She's not a young coded character. Going back to this freaking meme, again, we are creating the flat is justice, which is an actual body type, by the way, for people over the age of 20 as pedo. If you like that, you're a pedo. Again, go out in the real world, touch some grass. You'll see people younger than 20 who have the bottom body type, people who have very big chest size and are very tall and very well matured that are under the age of 20. I have seen that. I have also seen people who are small, petite, very short people who look like they're in their teens, but they are in their mid to late 20s. I have seen it. They exist. Just because you like a body type does not mean you are a pedo. However, your actions and your character determine that, which, again, what is happening here is this is causing people... This pisses me off, because what this is doing is it's making people not go after the actual pedos that exist in the world, because there's arguably a lot of them. But, you know, people are going to target fans of a body type online of, number one, something that is in fiction, and number two, something that even in real life isn't an ends-all meet-all thing, because there is a lot of variety in any of the living species on this planet, including the human race. So just because you like something doesn't mean that this topic literally annoys me to such an extent that words escape my brain. But yes, anyone with a brain knows that a short, petite person does not equal a child. And this whole argument is just so annoying to me in so many different areas. But yeah, I get that Fluerdelys fans are saying this because, again, this is a problem that Kuro did with this character, in my opinion, is that they marketed this character in a way that turns people off to one or the other. If Fluerdelys and Cartethyia were either completely separate characters, or if you had full control of what form you play as 100% of the time, this would not be as big of an issue. But because at the end of the day, both were marketed in totally different ways and very uneven patterns, and you have to play as both. You can't play as one or the other. You can't really customize how you play the character. This creates this problem where you have Fluerdelys fans that are mad that they have to play as a quote-unquote child, even though I think that's just them letting their emotions out, when at the end of the day it's playing as a body type that turns them off. Because, let's be honest, it's the same thing for Cartethyia fans, just in the other reverse way. That is the biggest problem with this, is that the way this character is done is that everyone is unhappy. Well, everyone that likes one or the other better, because then you have the both fans. But that is the big problem here. And again, I blame this more on Kuro than anything else. But anyway, let's keep going. Again, here is another Fluerdelys fan being replied to by someone with a brain. All lies, one is a fake copy. We don't want lolies. Cartethyia, and then this person replies, Cartethyia isn't a loli, she's more like Frieren. She's petite. Encore and Bria are actual lolis. Cartethyia is barely shorter than male Rover. Exactly, and then Carlotta's the same height, pretty much. People have made references in that, and actually, Carlotta and Cartethyia are almost the same body build if you look at both of them together. Like, look at both their models together, they're almost the exact same model. It's so silly that people are just like, oh, Cartethyia is short and flat-chested, so she's a loli, and liking her means you're a pedo and you should go to jail. No, use your brain. Do you have a brain? Actually, you're in a gacha gaming community. You probably don't have a brain. Anyway, and here we have another Fluerdelys fan. Oh, these Fluerdelys fans. So yeah, we can't have 2-in-1 character in gacha no matter what, people will cry. Also, a lot of pedos in the anime community, so it's except people English for people can't do English. These terminally online people can't type. People will be mad that they can't play their child waifu only. Yes, because flat short women over the age of 20 don't exist, everybody. Go out in the real world and you will never find a woman over the age of 20 that is shorter than 5 feet and flat chested. They don't exist. Anyone that knows, anyone that actually goes out into the world and touches grass knows that those people exist. I have some in my IRL family, okay? I know people like that exist. I have met them. I have seen them everywhere. If any of you go get a job, go to family reunions, actually, you know, interact with society more, you will meet them. I'm just saying that now. They are out there and they exist. Liking a small, flat-chested woman does not make you a pedophile. Just like the fact that there are some 16-year-olds that look like they are in their 30s. Both body-wise and look-wise, because those exist too. There's a reason that it is an actual recommended thing to always ask for someone's age and verify it before you go on a date or something like that. Because at the end of the day, you can't judge on looks alone. 90% of the time, looks can be a good judgment to lead into searching farther, but they aren't always an ends-all meet-all thing. And again, this is the problem with a lot of these Fluerdelys fans, is they're going on there and saying, "Oh, you like Cartethyia better, you're a pedo." No, they just have a different preference in waifu type, and also to a certain extent a certain preference in what that they like in IRL women. Oh boy, here's a fun one. So on this comment just asking what form people prefer, this guy obviously just saying he likes Cartethyia. He doesn't like the Fluerdelys form because, you know, there's 0 time spent with her in the story, which is true, and not really attracted to the oversized tits. But this guy replies, and this is a Fluerdelys fan here, "I'm so glad big CCs are trying to expose players like you. Imagine preferring a literal child over a big, beautiful, mature woman. The gacha community is literally infested with gay pedos like most of you Cardi fans, and I hope you and your tit hate continue to get driven back to gen shit where you belong. So glad Fluerdelys stole the show. W Kuro, W Tectone, W Genesis." What?
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
Oh, okay. This is cringe. So, oh gosh, this does make me wonder, though. I wonder what some of the big CCs are saying about the Cartethyia Fluerdelys sides of the character. So let's look at that. Let's look at just a few examples and see what some of them are saying.
Bro, everything about her just is so much cooler than her base version. Look at these gloves, like the gauntlets, man. This is so good. What the fuck?
Cartethyia is absolutely adorable, but I think out of the two, Fluerdelys is the one I really, really like the most. But
chat, type 1 for Fluerdelys and type 2 for Fluerdelys. Which, if you had to choose one or the other, 1 for Fluerdelys, 2 for Fluerdelys. All right, boys, that was good feedback. That was good feedback, man. Yeah, we already know the answer there, man. We already know that. Cartethyia getting benched every time, boys. We know it. You all know it. All right, Fluerdelys over Cartethyia any day of the week. No.
Okay, stop. That's enough. All right, I see where the majority of these content creators are with this. Oh boy, this actually explains a lot. So, unfortunately, I'm pretty sure most of the big content creators are all kind of in the same boat with preferring the bigger chested characters, which, you know, more power to them, nothing against them. Unfortunately, I feel like the 4 flat-chested and medium teams don't really have much representation, unfortunately, which is sad. But yeah, this is definitely a little biased. So yeah, I guess I'll be one of the few, everyone, that will represent the Cartethyia side on this one. But rip. Also, no hate against these CCs, because to be honest, all 3 of the ones I just showed and all the other ones that I could show, I'm just not going to. I honestly love all of them, and I watch them in my spare time anyway. But man, that kind of hurts though. Dang. But yeah, at the end of the day, with these two main ones, the Fluerdelys fans and the Cartethyia fans, it's funny because you can pretty much represent what the unhinged sides of both of them are feeling with each other right now. Is that going back to this meme here, it's kind of like this twisted version of this meme where you have the flat side and the big booba side have turned into this, which is pretty much that the Cartethyia fans are all pedos because they like small, flat-chested, women, and then the Fluerdelys fans are all apparently incel gooners who are only here to treat women as sex objects and nothing better, and and pretty much I think both of these are so... It's clearly just stretching and just throwing shade for the sake of throwing shade, and it's gotten ridiculous on both ends, because like I said, Cartethyia fans, they're just to a certain extent being hypocrites, because let's be honest, every character in every gacha game is marketed for the gooner audience because sex sells. That's the whole point of 90% of these characters, including Cartethyia, not just Fluerdelys. So the whole trying to say only the Fluerdelys fans are in that camp, yeah, that's ridiculous. But also, the Fluerdelys fans say, oh, well, the Cartethyia fans like a loli and a child, and they're all pedos, and we need to get them out of the community. It's just like, no, that's not what's going on here. And I've already addressed that enough. I'm not going to go into that whole thing again, but it's just the amount of stretching logically to insult someone for not liking what you like is ridiculous on both these ends. I'd say arguably the Fluerdelys fans are slightly more in the wrong, only because what they're accusing the Cartethyia fans of is an actual crime, which not only minimizes the weight of the actual crime that is an actual problem in today's world, by the way, but it also just makes Cartethyia fans really, really upset, because you're pretty much saying, oh, you're a criminal for liking this anime character. Just ridiculous, and like it's not even a logical thing if you think about it logically, but we've already addressed that. But yeah. Okay, in the process of looking around the internet, I have found probably the most based reply out of everyone on the Cartethyia side. So let's read this, because this reply is just peak. Honestly, this is a very obnoxious thing, and most people, of course, know that. There's no way they don't, because they're shown so clearly to be two sides of the same coin. This is obviously replying to someone who's defending the lore means both of them are the same character, and that's why you shouldn't hate one or the other. So this is a really good reply to that. That's obviously not the problem. The problem is the difference in design models. They have completely different body models and faces, and due to those models, they also have different accessories and outfit details. They are visually enough differences in the two for people to have differing opinions on both. I myself am not a fan of the overtly sexual mommy, MILF, pretty much, type designs, and I already really like Cartethyia. Everyone has their own tastes and preferences, and that's just mine, and there's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes with the gameplay. When you're not even playing as the character you pulled for most of the time, and the major damage is locked into playing as Fluerdelys, it's not a fun feeling. Since her initial leaks, I decided to pull for Cartethyia to build her, run around as her, be satisfied with her damage as I built her, etc. I didn't think her burst rotation would entirely be Fluerdelys. That doesn't mean I hate Fluerdelys. Having a problem is not the same as hating. I obviously really like Fluerdelys. Her sequence really reminded me of Fluerdelys' Sacrifice, which I think is a huge compliment, since Furina and Fluerdelys from Genshin are probably one of the few well-written characters in Genshin. True. However, if the character model looked like Fluerdelys, I would not be pulling, and that, of course, is fine. Again, it's a preference, but since she looks like the Cardi model, I of course was going to pull and was extremely excited to have her. Now I'm not so sure, as I didn't sign up for not even doing big damage with the Cartethyia model. It's not that I don't understand the lore, it's not hard to understand, it's that preferences exist. Equating people's preferences into them hating one model or the other is bad faith and not a very smart judgment to make. Freaking base. This person hits the nail on the freaking head. The problem is not the lore. The problem is the fact that the lore is being used as an excuse to make two completely different characters the same character, which immediately, yes, it will cause a lot of people that would have been hyped for one or the other to be even more hyped, but in equal measure, there is a huge amount of the player base that is being completely forgotten or silenced on the internet right now that has the opposite effect, where they really like one or the other. But especially on the Cartethyia side, this is the fact that you have to play both is turning them off. And again, I fully put this on Kuro, because if they had done this better, they could have done it in a way that made everybody happy. They could have done it in a way that made everybody happy. But at the end of the day, they made it so that Fluerdelys steals the show, but at the end of the day, you still have to play both. You can't play as one or the other. So at the end of the day, the both fans win. The Fluerdelys fans don't fully win, but they have enough wins that they can at least be chill and have fun playing that ultimate and doing the big number as Fluerdelys, at least. But man, the Cartethyia fans be losing hard, and yes, the Fluerdelys fans be taking some slight L's too, because they can't just stay as Fluerdelys the entire time. So again, this person right here is based, it's a preference issue, not a story issue, and just because you have a preference doesn't mean you hate one or the other. I guarantee if you ask most Cartethyia fans or most Fluerdelys fans if they absolutely hate and abhor the other character, most are gonna say, no, not at all. Like, Cartethyia, most Fluerdelys fans will say Cartethyia is cute. Like, she's not my waifu type at all, and a lot of them would say they kind of think that's cringe, but a lot of them would say she's cute and adorable, and they like that. Most Cartethyia fans would say Fluerdelys is cool. She's really cool. They like how badass she is. They like how she is pretty much a playable boss, and in the good way, not the memed way where it's like boss when you finally unlock them as a playable character. It's actually just she's straight up her boss fight, which is cool. Most Cartethyia fans would agree that's really cool. But the preferences exist. And again, going back to the image here, this is, again, the problem is that you have people who are saying that because you can't have your preference on what you enjoy for, you know, the look of a character, the chest size or whatever, you know, silliness, people are saying if you have a preference, then you hate the character. And that is such a stretch, it's not even funny. And it's gotten to the point on the internet where it's gone too far, which is, again, why I'm making this video to address this, because this has gotten ridiculous. So, at the end of the day, what are my thoughts on this whole thing? Well, my personal opinion, coming into this, I came into this game because of Cartethyia. I was happily just oblivious playing Hoyoverse games for pretty much the last, like, 4 or 5 years of my life. I have been playing Genshin religiously. I got very much into Honkai Impact. I got a little bit into Honkai Star Rail. Was very much in the whole Hoyoverse thing, and I knew the whole time that there was problems with the games, with Hoyoverse as a company. I just really didn't care because there wasn't good competition to go to. It was that or nothing for open world gacha games. But I remember I've been telling my community on Twitch, my small community, and in my Discord for pretty much years now that if they ever had good competition, depending on the competition, I might switch over. And Wuthering Waves, at first, I thought was going to be another Tower of Fantasy and just be a massive disappointment when it first released because I heard all the negatives about it. And it pretty much just went out of my mind for months until 2.0 came out. I started seeing hype. I was like, oh, that looks interesting, but I really didn't see anything that grabbed me character-wise or story-wise or anything until I saw screenshots of Cartethyia at the end of the 2.0 story when she got first revealed. And I saw her and I was like, oh my goodness, that is my type of character. Now, for me, my type of character in anime for female characters has been that small petite elf type. You're talking Frieren, you're talking High Elf Archer from Goblin Slayer, you're talking Ryu Leon from Danmachi, Amelia from ReZero, Sylphie from Jobless Reincarnation. Oh my gosh, what was that one girl's name from Delicious in the Dungeon? Temporarily having a brain fart on that one, but amazing anime, by the way. But those are just characters that I can think of off the top of my head. Those have been my characters in every anime I've watched that I've just fallen in love with because, well, I am a fan of elves. I'm gonna be honest. I just like my elves, and I like especially the small petite elves. That is what I like, or just the tall skinny elves. And yeah, that is the type of character I go for. And for open world gachas, I haven't really gotten a character like that is actually really well done and hits all the right notes for me. Like, the closest I got were Layla and Chaska in Genshin, and even both of them missed so many notes for me. They were like just good enough that I could be like, I'll main them, I guess. Like, but they weren't. They both missed on so many other levels. It just was kind of like disappointing. And for me, when I saw Cartethyia, I was like, man, she's that small petite blonde elf type that I love. And I was sold, and I got into the game because of her. And well, her and one of my good VTuber friends, who is also an amazing artist and rigger, shout out to Twisty Tales. She also was like streaming the game one day, and I was watching her play the gameplay and the story, and I was like, okay, this looks awesome. So I played the game, got caught up to 2.0 story right before 2.2 came out, and I played the 2.2 story on release, and I fell in love with Cartethyia through the whole thing. Every note was hitting. I loved the whole storyline of her wanting to be a knight, and they hit all the classic like high fantasy elements and the like chivalrous knight thing and the dragons and all of that. Oh man, it was hitting every note for me. They even had like the elf ear wiggles in there, which anyone who's watched anime for an extended amount of time knows that for us knife ear fans, the knife ear wiggles is peak. So they even had that. It was hitting all the right notes for me. And then at the end, you have the Fluerdelys thing where she accepts Fluerdelys, and immediately when it got to that point, I was like, oh no, yep, here we go. And it's pretty much gone downhill from there. Now, for me, I will say, straight up, Fluerdelys' design is amazing. It is not my type. However, I feel very happy for the people that enjoy her, and I will admit Fluerdelys is a very cool character. I do have a problem with Kuro and how they presented her, and I feel like they could have and should have done a lot better with Fluerdelys. But her design, her fighting styles, a lot of the lines she says, her voice acting, it is amazing. Amazing. But at the end of the day, it's not my style. I much prefer Cartethyia in every way, shape, and form. So, like, this has been very disappointing for me, because Cartethyia was... I was hoping Cartethyia would be what, in my opinion, Hoyoverse failed to do, which was give me a gacha character in an open world gacha that hits all the right notes for me, the way that so many other characters do for people I know both online and in real life. And I just haven't had that, and I was hoping Cartethyia would be the one that finally did it. That would be a character I could point at and say, that character is the first character I've gotten in an open world gacha that is my character in every way, shape, and form that I can just main for the rest of my life. And even if I end up switching to other games years down the road, I can look back and say, oh man, I miss playing that character because she was my girl, and I miss her. But sadly, this is yet another Chaska Layla situation for me, and it's left me disappointed. And I hate saying that because I really love Cartethyia so much. Everything about Cartethyia I still love, but it's just the fact that Fluerdelys has stolen the show so much, and the way Kuro has built the kit for the characters, it kills everything for me. And then obviously all the drama we just talked about. It's like, I feel like I can't even look at fan art of Cartethyia anymore or go on her Reddit and just browse, because all I see is just infighting, name calling, and just more hype. I would say, honestly, more hype for Fluerdelys than Cartethyia, which is the complete opposite of when I joined, because I'm one of the OGs, I'm gonna be honest. I was one of the first, I think, 500 people in the Cartethyia mains Reddit and the Cartethyia mains Discord. And the one meme of Cartethyia with the glasses, that funny meme, that meme was made by someone else, but I was one of the people that immediately went on the Reddit and the Discord. I was like, we gotta make this thing, guys. We gotta send this everywhere. And it did. It went everywhere. I was the guy that did that, and it hurts, man. I'm not gonna lie, it hurts, because I'm still gonna play her, I'm still gonna pull her, I'm still gonna, you know, main her, I'm gonna love playing her, I guarantee it, but it's not the same. It's not what it could have been, and my hype and my excitement for this character's release has pretty much completely died. And I have no one to blame except Kuro. And I will say this, Kuro, you have done stellar with so much in this game. Like no hate against Kuro here, because they've been knocking out of the ballpark with so much they do, being completely honest, but this is definitely a miss. They could have done so much more to make this character more appealing to everybody. They could have, like I said, they could have made it a form mode switch similar to Phoebe, that you could, but one that is indefinite on either side, but you can still switch whenever. Or they could have done something like Rover, where you can go in the character panel and just switch his elements on the go. You could have done that with Fluerdelys and Cartethyia. Like, there's so much they could have done that would have made everybody happy. The Cartethyia fans and the Fluerdelys fans could play their preferred form 100% of the time, and the both fans could master both forms and switch in between them, like Rover mains I know that do that with multiple Rover elements. They could have done that, but they didn't. And it hurts. It hurts even more so when I realize that the character I've been so excited to play, I either have to get really good at playing a version of her that's not what appeals to me at all, almost I'd say 75% of the time, based on how her kit's looking like it's how it's gonna work, or I would have to play her Cartethyia form most of the time, which is pretty much, from everything I've seen of people looking at her kit, how it currently is, it would pretty much be playing not only her completely suboptimally and unmeta, but it would be pretty much taking a character that is quite literally probably going to break the game in many ways because of how overpowered Fluerdelys is going to be, and just playing her in a way that makes her so mediocre that she, number one, is 100% reliable on other characters' kits to even work, and even with that, she still is subpar at best. And that hurts, man. It does. Now, that being said, I still plan on playing Cartethyia that way, and I plan on representing the Cartethyia fans, even if I'm the only CC out there to do so. I will be the one, gosh dang it. I will find a way to make her suboptimal build at least usable, and I will be the one guy who will do the crazy stuff. I will challenge every X-Tactical hologram with the most suboptimal, unmeta build on Cartethyia you can imagine, and I will make it work, and it will be great stream content, and I can't wait for that. So look forward to that, but it still hurts, man. And I will say this, like, everyone likes to talk about how Kuro listened. I don't see how they can listen on this one, because either they would have to completely rework completely how Cartethyia and Fluerdelys' kits work from the ground up, which I don't see them doing, or they would have to make me and many of the other Cartethyia fans that are upset right now, they would have to release a character down the line that's pretty much Cartethyia without Fluerdelys and is almost identical in every way to Cartethyia, which again I don't see them doing, because it'd make no sense. It'd be like releasing the same character twice, and it just hurts. And yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen from here, but I will say this, whatever gacha game out there releases a character that hits every note for me first, because none of you have done it, at least in open world. I will correct myself, back when I played mobile gachas, Epic 7 and King's Raid. Shout out to anyone who actually knows what the hell those games are. I've not played either of them in years, and I think King's Raid is dead. But both of those games are so far the only gacha games I've personally played that had characters that hit every note for me. Because Azaria from Epic 7 and Celine from King's Raid were the only two I've seen in a gacha game that hit all the right notes for me. And I just haven't had a character like that in an open world gacha game. And so far, from even the ones coming out, like, the closest from an upcoming game is Azure Primelia, and even the girl from Azure Primelia still isn't my type. Even though she's a cute elf, and I still will probably pull for her, she's just still not hitting the notes. And it hurts knowing that what so many of my friends have, what so many of the streamers I watch have, I will probably never have, which is a character that hits all the notes for me and is a character that I can say that's my, you want what I like, this character right here. I just don't have that. Cartethyia is the closest we've gotten, and I will take what I can get. But man, it hurts. It hurts. And again, I will stress this till I'm blue in the face. No hate to the Fluerdelys fans. You deserve her. She is an amazingly designed character. Enjoy doing that alt. Love the hell out of it. It is made for you. Love that pull animation. It is also made for you. Enjoy it. Fans of the lore and both, you know, you deserve it too. Enjoy her character. Enjoy her for me, because I will enjoy her, but not to the level you guys will. And it's sad. But, like I said, I'll take what I can get, and we'll make content out of it. And for all you Cartethyia fans out there that might feel like you have nowhere to go, you're welcome here. So, but yeah. I think on that note, I'm gonna end here. Thank you all for watching this video. It's been a journey, and obviously I could probably have made this video a few hours long if I really wanted to, and go deep diving across the internet, finding even more examples on other websites and YouTube videos and Discord, and oh, I could have gone way harder on this. I'm just choosing not to, number one for my own sanity, and number two for your sanity. But I hope from what I got in here that it gets the point across, it gets the message across, and it can at least start some discussion in the Wuthering Waves community about this character, about this drama. And honestly, I hope that some feedback can go back to Kuro and just to gacha games as a whole, because even if they don't fix Cartethyia, if they ever release a character like a 2-in-1 package again, or if any other gacha game does, please learn from this. Please learn from this. Market the characters not only outside the game, but inside the game in an even manner in all ways, shapes, and forms, whether it be emotionally, fight scenes, just like everything. It should be perfectly balanced. And when you release the gameplay, don't lock both together in limited form, it mixed together limited wise. Please make more customization for the players, so that players that prefer one or the other, or players that prefer both, can all be happy at the end of the day. Which, again, sadly, so far, is not what we're getting with Cartethyia. And I hope that people can learn from that. I hope Kuro can learn from that, and other game companies can learn from that. And yeah, I hope this never gets repeated. But without further ado, everyone, this has been your knight, your ranger captain, Allurin Direstorm. Thank you for tuning into another video, and as you go, make sure to leave some comments below with your thoughts. And remember, no matter what difficulties face you in life, forge on, stay true to your honor, your courage, and your code. And I will see you on the next battlefield. Until then, stay safe on your adventures, and I'll catch you guys next time. And now I am probably going to go play a game that's not a gacha game, which you guys should do too. It's a good experience. I highly recommend games like Monster Hunter Wilds, by the way. That game's amazing. But I'm probably going to go play some Total War Warhammer, because I've been enjoying that game super much. Plus, I can play as two beautiful elf women that ride a dragon. It's fun. But anyway, take care.